a very large majority of my students who had myopia and presbyopia and reversed their myopia also reversed the symptoms of their presbyopia. Welcome back. So today let's talk about presbyopia, and we're going to have two videos here. This video is going to be primarily about presbyopia, and then there's going to be another video about how you can resolve presbyopia if you already have myopia, which will be in Lemmeow, the Endmyopia community. If you're not familiar, if you're in the Facebook group, you can look up that stuff from the Facebook group. If you're new here, my name is Jake Steiner. I used to have -5 diopter myopia. I successfully reversed all my myopia. I now run Endmyopia, and presbyopia, which is not myopia, different cause, different scenario, but similar in some respects, is something that comes up a lot. So we'll talk about it somewhat briefly in this video. So presbyopia, as you probably already know, is an age-related situation whereby the lens in your eye that is flexible, that is responsible for focus, it's relaxed at a distance, and up close it is moved by the ciliary muscle, a circular muscle that tenses up as you get closer in your focal plane, and the muscle is responsible for shaping the lens, and the lens is responsible for moving the focus in your eye for close-up. Now as you get older, the lens becomes less flexible, so it takes more effort for the ciliary muscle to move the lens for close-up vision. And the way you start noticing this in your 40s and 50s and on is that it may become more challenging to get a clear image the closer up you're focused. So this is something that happens with everybody. Presbyopia as a medical condition, I don't believe in. Big disclaimer obviously here, I'm weird. I haven't seen people with lens correction necessary for presbyopia in a lot of countries where it's not that popular to sell glasses, and where close-up isn't something that's used as sustained and all the time as in some Western countries. Also, with most of my students over the past decade plus that have reversed their myopia and gotten older, since this has been quite a long time, I'm not aware of any of them having gotten presbyopia as a noticeable symptom. And also a very large majority of my students who had myopia and presbyopia and reversed their myopia also reversed the symptoms of their presbyopia. In other words, they can see up close without any lens correction as they can see for a distance. So in my experience, not theoretical journal reading, but in my experience, presbyopia isn't something that requires lens correction in anyone that I've worked with on a long-term ongoing basis. So while the lens hardens, that is a fact, and while certainly close-up, like extreme close-up, like a smartphone amount of close-up may create some noticeable blur, especially as you get older, the question of do I need plus lenses, reading glasses for this, is highly questionable. Now the problem, if you're familiar with endmyopia, if you're familiar with myopia, if you're familiar with the impact of minus lenses on your focal plane, plus lenses have a somewhat similar effect. Now, unlike myopia, I can't attest to whether the axial length of your eye actually changes due to wearing lenses with presbyopia. It's very well possible, but unlike myopia, we have not measured that, so I can't say with any amount of certainty. However, what we do know is that if you start wearing plus lenses, you go to the optometrist or yourself decide on your own to start wearing reading glasses, which makes it easier for you to see up close when you wear plus lenses, or if you have myopia, if you wear reduced minus lenses for close-up, reading becomes easier. The problem now though is it's very easy that you fall into the same hole of where initially you started out with a +1 and then you end up with a +1.25 and a +1.5 and higher. Even though presbyopia doesn't tend to go nearly as far in people as myopia, you certainly can have a progressive element to where your plus lens use the diopter increases, and with that it becomes more difficult for you to read up close without that lens correction. So if you only have presbyopia, which is not really an endmyopia topic, but we'll touch on it briefly here, generally speaking, you can gradually reduce the amount of plus lenses that you use. So if you start out as a plus 1.5, you can go down to a plus 1.25 and you challenge your near point. It's probably a good idea to read some Endmyopia stuff. The short version is you can see clearly up to a certain distance with those glasses. When you reduce the plus diopter, it becomes challenging to see at the same close-up distance. So if you hold the text further away, it's easier to see. If you hold it closer, it's more difficult to see. So you want to maintain that close distance when you reduce your diopters, which makes it more challenging. Now you're going to have to discover active focus, which I'll try to remember to link below. If not, you can certainly find it in the Endmyopia blog. Discovering active focus, challenging your vision. Now you've got a little bit of blur. You want to challenge that blur. You want to be able to see clearly at that close distance. Opposite of myopia, where you're challenging the far distance of close-up, with presbyopia you want to challenge the close distance. So if anything, you move a little bit closer to the book or the screen, you get a little blur, you try to clear up the blur, and that becomes your consistent habit. You don't need distance vision practice for this. For presbyopia, it's close-up. So lowering the plus diopters, or if you have myopia, and this is where it gets tricky, and we'll discuss that in a separate video, not reducing your minus diopters to the same extent as your optometrist maybe have recommended. Again, this is not advice. You make your own choices. This is just me telling hypothetical stories. So say, for example, you have a plus 1.5 reduction of your myopia, right? So if you have a -4, you have a -2.5 for close-up. Instead of going -2.5, you might go -2.75. So you actually increase the minus diopter. You're challenging the close distance. So when you're in the same close point with less minus, it's now more challenging to read. And slowly, there's no hurry for this, slowly introducing that challenge to where over time, if in a year you can reduce your plus lens dependency by half a diopter, you're perfectly fine. And you should eventually be able to get to the point where you can read close-up just fine without the need for any plus lenses, given enough time. And I found this to be the case well over a decade with a whole lot of people, not to the same degree as myopia. This is not our core topic. Our core topic is myopia. It's just because it comes up because a fair amount of students are in that age range where presbyopia is something noticeable, and where unfortunately in some people it's been corrected. So now they're running into this issue of I can't see at a distance without glasses, and I can't see up close without glasses. So your accommodation range, the range at which you can see clearly, is greatly reduced, which reduces the quality of life in general and is completely unnecessary. So if you only have presbyopia, quite simple. You have to find active focus, and you have to reduce the plus correction while challenging yourself at the close blur horizon. It's very simple. About half diopter a year improvement is standard. Some people will improve much faster. Should be well reversible for most people, unless there are medical conditions involved, in which case I have no comment. Now, if you have myopia, you notice my suggestion is you don't reduce the minus correction to the same extent as you were when you started with this. This introduces some issues because now your ciliary spasm may increase, your hyperopic defocus may increase, all the things that cause myopia in the first place, that cause progressive myopia, and that makes it difficult to reverse myopia, are now introduced because you're trying to prevent the presbyopia from increasing, right? So it becomes a difficult thing to reduce myopia at the same time while reducing presbyopia. So there'll be a separate video about this. Unlike this video, that video will be for members specifically. Membership doesn't cost anything other than contributing to the community. For more information on that, visit our Facebook group, which I'll try to remember to link below. If you're a contributing member to the Facebook group, or if you're paid back to 2020, you'll have access to this video. Either way, either you've been contributing to the community or you're paying for back to 2020. I'll elaborate more on this aspect if you have both myopia and presbyopia and how to reverse both at the same time. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want more of these, because I hope to be uploading slightly more frequently, and I'll see you in the next one.